Hello, hello, lads. I'm sorry this is getting filmed later than expected. I'm filming this at 2:50 a.m. in the morning. Because I watched all the football games, and then I watched this, and it took me a while to get started. I was late getting started, so, late. I'm kind of tired, but I'm going to give this 110%, dude. We put out a poll a while back for which movie we should review in the Halloween franchise. I threw this one on there. I didn't think it would get picked. I thought you guys were as sick of this timeline as I was after watching the disgusting, wretched piece of shit that Halloween Ends really was. If I knew you guys would have picked it, I admittedly probably wouldn't have turned it on. Because I probably wouldn't have put it on there. Because I wasn't that eager to return to this timeline as quickly as y'all made me do it. I'm still not over Ends, bro. I'm still not over it. I still think it's horrible. I still think it's fucking horrible. I've still only seen it once, and I still have no desire to ever watch it again. It's trash. I know eventually I will, and I'm not looking forward to that day. But y'all wanted this. This is the one you guys picked. You wanted 2018, and I'm going to deliver a review of Halloween 2018. Basically, now that we do have the whole trilogy, for better or for worse, we now have 2018 as like the introductory movie to the beginning of a trilogy. That was the idea here. That's what they did, and now we have that framework. Okay, 2018, not as a standalone, not as an introductory phase of a trilogy, and now that we know what that whole trilogy looks like, my biggest question going into this was, would that change the movie's quality in any way? Knowing what we know now, knowing anything about the structure of a trilogy and what you're supposed to do. The introductory act, the middle, blah, 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 or the end, blah, 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 blah. Like, beginning, middle, end, etc. Like, knowing what we know about how you're supposed to do this, will my thoughts on 2018 change in any way? No. What was the answer? I had the same issues with it that I had when I saw it the first time. I had a lot of the same positives I saw. Like, the characters are introduced very well, except for one. One character's not done really well in this. One. And I think y'all probably can guess who that is, just based on what you know about this movie. There's one character in particular that I thought they really just missed, but whatever, we'll get there. But it has come to my attention, and maybe you guys just wanted me to talk about this so I can slam Ends every other second, but because I've watched this one again post Ends, this is my first viewing post Ends. It has come to my attention that the entire trilogy's structural mistakes are completely 100% on Halloween Ends. All of them. Every single issue, structure-wise, with the movie, is 100% on Halloween Ends. Well, it's like, oh, we didn't really set that up in the trilogy. Yeah, because that wasn't this movie's job. Ends fucked up, not this movie. Corey Cunningham not being in this movie is not this movie's fault. Corey Cunningham not being in Kills is not Kills' fault. It's Ends' fault. A certain crap not being established about the way Michael works, it just was pulled out of their asses and Ends. Oh, Michael can transfer the evil, bro. If, I don't know if that's the interpretation we're going with. I don't fucking know. But like all that crap, that shit, it's all on Ends. All of it. It's completely on Ends. It wasn't this movie's job to set up the disgusting framework for Ends. Okay? Ends shit the bed. Okay? This movie and Kills are a very tightly knit and very consistent narrative. Ends is the one that jumps out the fucking window. You ever see that fucking picture of a horse where it's like its ass is really good, the midsection is okay, and then the front of it was made by like a toddler? That's literally this trilogy, bro. That's literally this trilogy. However, this movie is not perfect. And I've noticed that like upon this viewing in particular, because I was making notes about the character work in this actually isn't too great. It's not. Particularly with one character. There's one character that it's not that good with. Also, this is also my first viewing. This was a very unique viewing of 2018 for me, because this is also the first viewing of 2018 for me in a post Rob Zombie era, where I've watched Rob Zombie, and now that I firmly believe that the Rob Zombie movies, I think I like 2 better. Like, the more I think about 2, the more I think I like that one better. This is my first viewing of this movie in a post I love Rob Zombie era that I've rediscovered those movies and developed a big fascination for them. So some of the character stuff with Laurie, I'm just gonna say it is not as good as the Rob Zombie movie. Fight me. I will fight you on this. I will fight each and every one of you on this. Certain aspects of the way that Rob Zombie handled Laurie in Halloween 2 was better than this. Like in a very significant way. But that's just broad. This movie is still overall very good. So let's go ahead and get into it, and we'll discuss the flaws and the issues as they come up. We'll start with the opening, okay? Because that's what we always start with, okay? The opening of this movie is very good, and I'm sure, this isn't a secret. Everybody knows that the opening of this movie is very good. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about this movie. And the more you actually get quite a bit of character stuff with Sartain, more than you think. I was actually, one of the most surprising aspects of this for me was Sartain, because I thought they were actually beginning to set up something pretty nice here. But basically, right away, you get these true crime podcasters, which was also an interesting. The opening of this movie gives you an interesting direction that you could go in that I kind of wish was kept around. The 2 of these 3 characters in this opening should not have died. I'm just that's a problem. They killed characters they shouldn't have killed. So, the true crime shit is a missed opportunity. That would have been a very interesting way to look at this franchise, especially since that's, really big. I know it's kind of topical, but, I still think that would have been an interesting direction to take the franchise. So, whatever. You get the sense that, Sartain is kind of viewing this right away as kind of like a scientific approach. He's approaching it. He's approaching Michael in a very scientific way that, to my knowledge, we haven't really seen before in the series, because of the fact that, Loomis is all Michael is evil, Michael is evil. Now, again, the Rob Zombie movies kind of go into, a series of internal, external factors, blah, 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 and they kind of take a more grounded look at it. But the thing about that is, for better or for worse, that wasn't the OG shape. One of the things about this movie is it's very safe. This is a very, very safe movie. I don't think anybody can ever take that away from it or attribute it. This movie's very safe. It went back to the roots of the series. It gave you the Myers you wanted. It brought Jamie Lee back. They basically, you know what? And that's not a knock on the movie either. If there was a time to play it, if there was a time to play it safe, it was after the Rob Zombie movies. Because the Rob Zombie movies, for better or for worse, in a very drastically different direction. And while I view both of them as very good, and the second one is fucking Shakespearean and great, it still wasn't what most people were expecting to see out of a Halloween movie. And because of the fact that Rob Zombie has a habit of alienating his audience, a very safe return to form, add the class back, if you will, to the franchise, was something that you can certainly see the argument for it. You certainly can. And when this movie came out, that's something that I liked as well. This movie brought the class back to the franchise that Rob Zombie kind of took away with, scroll over there, skull, fuck the shit out of you. And you ever told him running to fuck some corpses? That kind of shit. Just one random thing from each movie. That kind of shit all being not there anymore. The franchise definitely needed that. I am glad there was no Rob Zombie Halloween 3. The duology was perfect the way it was. You have to be glad there was none, especially since they would have likely went with a theatrical ending, which is the worst ending for the duology, but that's in the Rob Zombie videos. But definitely a much safer return to form here, and again, that's definitely what they needed to do. So back to the opening, you have Sartain clearly viewing Michael as something to be studied. I thought that, his entire character is kind of like an idea of how Rob Zombie kind of missed the point of the franchise, if you will. That interpretation of, why is Michael the way he is? That crap doesn't actually matter. And the podcasters wanting to learn more about Michael doesn't actually matter. What they're doing doesn't matter. And we as the audience, because now we're back to the shape, right? We're not talking about Tyler Mane, human Myers anymore. We're back to the supernatural character. So all this crap they're trying to do is irrelevant and doesn't actually fucking matter. And because Sartain's very rushed kind of arc is like he's trying to understand something that can't be understood, and it slowly makes him kind of lose his mind, right? That has some Lovecraftian cosmic horror parallels that I wish they would have developed on in the sequels, but whatever. So basically, they just the opening, they're done dancing around the deeper shit. They go into the fucking field where Michael is. They go into the part of the asylum he is. They're outside. They're all in their little zones. It's a very interesting kind of place. It's visually pleasing. Everything looks like a checkerboard, which I mean that could that's how Michael could see the world, but that's way too deep. So Aaron the podcaster's like talking to Michael, like, you ever think about them, Michael? Their guilt about their fate, blah 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 blah. And like he's talking to Michael. Michael doesn't move. Okay, Myers is just fucking standing there. Okay, and then the very first part of the movie that I feel is important, besides of all the dialogue about Glass Hill, blah, 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 like, we're skipping some talking scenes. Because, again, I skipped it because it doesn't really matter. That's the whole joke of what they're talking about. It doesn't matter. It sets up the way they are, but it doesn't matter. So, dumbass takes the mask, like, I borrowed something from a friend at the district attorney's office, Michael. I don't know how he got that, but whatever. He takes the mask out, and then Myers does his first movement of the movie. Because until this point, Myers is just standing there, not moving. But, he does his first move of the movie when he picks the mask up, okay? And when you watch it, it looks like, and I thought until this viewing that Myers kind of turned his head kind of slowly. I don't know if I'm the only one that thought this. I thought Myers just kind of subtly turned his head, like, okay, what's this guy doing? It's actually not a slow turn. If you watch it back, watch it closely, he kind of, flicks his head. It's more of a twitching motion. It's kind of like when this might be reading too deep into it, but when Aaron the podcaster picks the mask up, Myers twitches, he's like his face is being touched or he's getting pinched or something. I thought that was a really nice touch. I don't even know if they intended to do that, but that shot of him picking up the mask and then Myers' actual face twitching, I thought was a really, really neat touch. Okay, so basically when he shows the mask, it's more of a twitch, right? And then we talked about that. And then, there's obviously something supernatural happening there, okay? This entire opening sequence, which is really funny because everybody knows how good this is, it just craps all over ends, okay? If you want to say Myers was human in Halloween Ends, bro, that's how he died. This is no, fuck you. No, that's not what was going on. Unless he transferred all of his evil to Corey and then became human after. He is supernatural in this trilogy. This opening scene shows it. When the mask shows up, the dogs and the lunatics all fucking freak out and they go, Piccolo, Piccolo, and the dogs bark and everyone's shaking and screaming. That's all you need. That's the supernatural shit right there. That's it. That's the supernatural aspect of the character. It is intact in this trilogy. There is no human Myers in this. There's not. That's why his age doesn't matter. That's why, I've never got the criticism of, Myers is an old man, bro. It doesn't matter. He's the shape. It doesn't matter how his physical body looks. He's the shape. There's something supernatural here. That's why his age doesn't fucking matter. Okay, so, the female podcaster kind of turns to Sartain when everyone's freaking out, and then, he gives this hand motion, no, this, he's clearly interested in what's going on here. He's not disinterested. He neglects the other patients and their humanity in favor of what's going on with Michael and this crazy shit. And Michael, there was a big emphasis on Michael speaking in this movie, and it doesn't return. The reason I bring that up is it doesn't return in the sequels, so I don't really understand why it's here in a lot of aspects, but it could have been followed up on with Sartain a little bit, but whatever. Michael's the podcasters are say something, and then the jack-o'-lantern sequence comes up, and then the jack-o'-lantern sequence is very good. The transition from the opening scene to the jack-o'-lantern sequence is really good in this. And the theme song that they use, it's very refined, very good. It's clean. It's clean. Even the Rob Zombie theme, the 09 theme, especially the 09 theme, it's kind of dirtier. I guess that's the right word. It's a little bit more garny. It's unpolished. Like, it fits that movie, but it fits that series. But this fits this series because this is cleaner. We're back to Carpenter. We're back. You know, we're back. The OG is back. You know, we got the OG guy doing the music. It's a good, clean, refined version of the song. And then the rotten pumpkin rises back up again, as long as like we're back to making good ones now. Which again, you could view that as a knock on the Rob Zombie ones. I don't view that as a knock because like it's not like the Rob Zombie ones are the only trash ones. We're talking about Resurrection and the Thorn trilogy. Like the franchise has been in the trash for a long time. So it's not really a knock on one specific movie. It's just like we're back. That's what we're back, boys. And I like that. That gets you. That pumps you up, man. I was at the drive-in the first time I saw this. You could hear people cheering in their vehicles when that sequence happened. It was like when the transition happened. Like there was clapping and everyone was fucking loving it, dude. It was good stuff. So they did a really nice job with that. Okay. So next, after the jack-o'-lantern sequence, you get the first issue I have with this movie, okay? That's not really an issue. It's just like a lot of the dialogue that the podcaster is speaking into his little the thing are like, it's just wrong. It's just not right. He's like, barbed wire, the bars and barbed wire that separate them are strong and sharp, but the metaphysical lines are blurred and slight. Like, they're trying to, like, build up this Laurie Strode as an actual counterpart to, like, Michael Myers, okay? This aspect of the movie, for me, fell flat in a post-Rob Zombie viewing. Because, no, lads. And I'm like, yeah, I'm probably bringing up Rob Zombies more than I thought you thought I probably would. But it's important here. It's important because they're trying to do something similar with Laurie's character, which, again, H2O was a bit more grounded from my recollection. And again, I haven't seen H2O in a couple years, so I need to rewatch that one again. But from what I remember about H2O, like, Laurie had a job, she was stable, like, she had some PTSD, but, like, it was a much less dramatic version of it. Like, she was just somebody that was... You know, she had some issues with nightmares and stuff like that, but overall, she was still relatively stable together, and like, she changed her name and stuff, and moved out. Like, you know, she was trying to move on, but, you know, she was still relatively stable. She wasn't, like, that theme of, like, Laurie is like a super badass, and she's like fucking Sarah Connor, bro. She's like... She's she's still like a person. Like this Laurie became kind of Superman, Sarah Connor. The Laurie in H2O is still more grounded. I probably the most. I don't want to say the most. I mean, I haven't really been attempted murdered. I've had. I don't want to go into too much, but like I mean, I've had some confrontations, but you know, attempted murder, no. So I can't really speak for attempted murders. I can't speak for attempted murder victims here, but I feel like H2O was like the majority of people, whereas the Rob Zombie was like an extreme case of trauma, like, if you will. Like, this is what I'm trying to say. And then this was the fictionalized version, but you know, like, they're trying to pretend this Laurie is like a counterpart to like Michael, but that's just definitely not true here, dude, because the mindset of the two characters is still very much different, whereas Michael's like the shape still, right? But Laurie never lost her good nature. That's the problem. In the Rob Zombie movie, she's more of a counterpart to Michael because she's losing her good nature. That's what's happening. You see how Myers completely destroyed her in Halloween 209. There's great character work happening in that movie. Laurie's not really destroyed in this. She still she still tries to do the right thing and stuff. She's still like a good person. She's extreme in some situations, but like overall her good nature wasn't destroyed by Michael Myers. And like, it's also like Loomis's nature doesn't, because like since we know 2 through 6 didn't happen, we know that we can assume that Loomis never tried to fucking kill anybody or shoot little girls in the face. So like, Michael's impact is not that big on a lot of the characters in this movie. Well, it's big on Laurie, obviously, but Loomis is still like relatively normal from what we understand. Like, they don't say anything. I don't know. That's just that might be that, but like, I didn't like that. That whole, we're trying to make her a counterpart to Michael. It seems to be an excuse to like do little homages to the original, which one works, one doesn't work so well. There's two moments where they do similar shots to the original. One works, one doesn't, and well, I'm sure you know which one worked and then which one was awkward. But whatever. So Laurie's house is like okay, I do like Laurie's house because it shows her that like it's isolated from the rest of the world, which is fine, but like it's got cages and locks and all kinds of shit on it. Shows her like mental isolation from the rest of the world. She's physically and mentally isolated from the rest of the world. And since we know that the real purpose is for Myers to like show up, it shows that like if Laurie's Laurie's house is reflective of her mindset, where it's Michael. It's all, or like her entire headspace is all about Myers. So I thought that was good. So like the obsession, almost, because we're talking about this Michael. Myers in the OG timeline had this obsession with taking out his family members, where it's like, okay, he's got to kill Laurie, he's got to kill Jamie, he's back to Laurie again, he's killing his bloodline. So like he was obsessed with that. His family members weren't obsessed with him. In this version, I know it's not a brother-sister timeline, but the obsession has gone from Myers to Laurie, which is a different direction to kind of take on. Even H2O, like she wasn't obsessed, she was just trying to like move on. And was struggling to do that. And she still had habits that, were formed in her parenting by the encounter with Myers. But this one, again, it's like some obsession aspect. Okay, so like she has become like Myers in that sense, I guess. So okay, we're at the podcaster scene. And they're in the house. I always found that Laurie was a bit aggressive towards them here, but like on this viewing, when I'm like really analyzing what the hell they're saying, the podcasters really approach this in like the worst possible way. Like they really did. They're like I didn't like the Dana's line about like we try to look at incidents with an unbiased lens. Like I don't know why you would say that to a fucking murder victim. She's not a murder, like attempted murder victim. Like they're like. I know that's what you like. You're setting up your podcast. You're explaining to her what you're doing, and you probably have to do that in some respects. But I don't really think that like a murder victim wants to hear that, especially Laurie, who's like Laurie's not taking your shit. So when you're fucking sitting there explaining this crap to her, like there's no fucking way she's gonna fucking listen to it. Like, especially when they said their goal of, like, we want to learn more, and we want new insights or discoveries. Laurie just flat out says there are no new insights or discoveries, which is a direct fucking callback to the Sartain shit from earlier, when Sartain's like, I want the state has lost interest in discovering anything further. Like, Sartain's still obsessed with, like, learning about Myers, and Laurie's like, there's no new insights or discoveries. So it puts her and her philosophy, which we know mirrors Loomis, because of course it does. Laurie's philosophy mirrors Loomis's the second that Loomis shot Myers in the face in the OG. So like Myers is viewed by the podcasters and Sartain is something to be studied or analyzed. And Laurie kind of got pissed because they're all like Dana's like, we want to know why Myers did what he did. We want a glimpse inside his mind, and that's why your story is so important. Like, Laurie's sitting there getting told that her story and what she went through is important because it will help them understand Michael Myers. And Laurie's like, what the fuck is this about? Like, Michael Myers is not somebody we need to fucking understand or learn new information about. Like he's not. Like, he's not. But again, see, Laurie's understanding that they're missing the point. Like, the Laurie Loomis mindset is, like, the audience, okay? That's why Loomis, like, being in these movies, in the Thorne timeline, was always so important, because his philosophy on Myers was the stand-in for the audience. So they kind of transferred that over to Laurie, which, again, Laurie kind of uses it better, because Laurie's less insane than Loomis is. But, you know, they further link Laurie to Loomis because they give her that's the idea line, where it's like they're gonna lock him away in Glass Hill until he dies, and then Laurie goes, that's the idea. Because like Laurie, again, she's not as tired or as gray, and again we talked about like Loomis, that's probably not his fate in this timeline, but you're getting the sense that like what, like, these people that, like, never encountered Myers, like, never had any interaction. Like, okay, Sartain's obviously had interaction, but, like, Laurie's seen the side of him that, because, like, what Sartain sees is what Loomis saw for 15 years, and Sartain's not as good or as Loomis about seeing what the hell's going on, whereas Loomis realized he was pure evil after, like, 7 years or whatever. Is it 8? It's 8 or 7. 8. It was 8. He spent 8 years trying to reach him, okay? But it's like, after the 8 years, he just said, no, this kid's fucking evil, and I see it now, where Sartain never hit that step. So, that, there you go. But, so, like, they gave Laurie that line to kind of link their two philosophies, okay? And one interesting thing that happens is the podcasters actually offer to take Laurie for a sit-down confrontation with Michael Myers. Something that even when I saw this movie for the first time, I thought that would actually be interesting to, like, see Laurie sit down with Michael and like, talk to him. Something Sartain would actually, like, approve of. But again, that's, like, that's interesting on paper, but again, it's useless. Like, Laurie, as well as the audience, technically, like, we know, like, as interesting as that would be to watch, you know that's useless. That's not going to do anything. It's going to be Laurie sitting there talking about, you did this, this, and this, or whatever, and Michael, and you've made me turn into this, and Michael's just going to sit there and stare at her. Like, there's nothing there. So it's like, why, like, you see why the podcasters, and then, obviously, Sartain, would think that's something interesting, and, like, Sartain wants to see them actually fight later on in the movie. But, like, you get the sense that, like, these podcasters definitely think that would be good for Laurie and for them to understand about more things about Michael, but it's useless. And again, like, Laurie's in Laurie's state, like, no, like it's obvious. It's obvious by the way the podcasters handle this that it's just really bad. And he talks about. Aaron talks about the boogeyman and, like, is he real, the boogeyman? And, like, he's kind of, like, implying Laurie's crazy. And then they ask about the daughter, and about how Laurie never regained custody of Karen, and then Laurie kicks him out because, like their professionalism and journalism there was so bad. I can't believe that. I don't believe the characters when they're like, oh, we won awards for our podcast. We're so good at true crime documentaries. Like, you're fucking trash at your jobs, dude. Like, holy shit. Like, that interview was actually really bad. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it took me a while to like understand why Laurie was aggressive there, but yeah, trash. The interview was, like, really bad. Okay, so we already talked about that. We haven't met Allison or Karen yet, but we have the audience. The challenging thing with this movie in particular was you're trying to set Laurie up as, like, a bad mother. Okay, like she has a rocky relationship with the people around her. Okay, the problem is this is Jamie Lee Laurie. It was much easier to see a change in, like, the Rob Zombie Laurie, because the Rob Zombie Laurie was different. Like, the audience has a certain level of attachment to Jamie Lee Laurie. No matter what you do with her, especially since she's right about Michael, and Michael being pure evil and all that shit, because she's right, that automatically makes her the smartest character in the movie. Okay? There's a certain attachment to the character and a certain knowledge that she is right about the situation. Okay, that the audience has, that the other characters don't. The other characters don't have that, but we do. So the problem is when you're trying to write these conflicts with Laurie and the rest of her family, it's going to be hard to get the audience to see the other side, okay? Okay, it's really going to be hard because we know that the character that is coming in and is going to challenge Laurie on all this is wrong. With the podcasters and Sartain, it doesn't matter. But with the major characters, it certainly does. So now we're about to meet those characters. We meet Ray, Karen, Allison. Ray spouting out some fucking garbage about mice and peanut butter on his dick, which, I mean, the comedy in this movie is something I'm not going to touch on. I don't think it's important. But, like, the writers of this movie wrote comedies before they did this, and it kind of leaked in here a little bit. Less so in Kills and Ends. I think Ends had a few dumb moments, but, like, this movie, they kind of walked the line a little bit. But again, it doesn't particularly matter. Okay, we kind of see what's going on here from this scene, where it's like Allison, the granddaughter, wants Laurie in her life. right? Like, Laurie is important to Allison, and she wants Laurie to be there, and she wants the family kind of united. However, we know that there's a certain reason that Karen is keeping them apart, okay? We don't really know enough to make a judgment at this particular point. We kind of know what's going on. Like, we kind of get the conflict here is that the family is divided because Laurie's nuts and she's Myers obsessed, and that's not good exposure for the rest of the family. And Laurie traumatized Karen or whatever the fuck, and she doesn't want to do the same thing. Like, there's family trauma going on here. And she doesn't want Laurie to do the same thing to Allison or whatever the fuck. So that's kind of what's going on. We don't really know enough yet, though. We're just kind of like at the planted seeds. And we know that Karen lied about calling her because fucking Allison says so, and she said that she called Laurie, blah, 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 blah. And we get, this isn't a brother-sister timeline. They explain that here. They actually have a scene where Dave, one of Vicky's boyfriend, he kind of like downplays the significance of Myers. And he's like, Myers killing people with a knife is not that big of a deal when you put it in retrospect to all the other problems. And it's like, this is actually an issue that happens in kills. Because David, I mean, you could just take it at face value and like David's just a fucking hippie and he doesn't really know. I guess that you could go with that. But David's statement basically, like, in the Thorn trilogy and then in H2O, like, I mean, people kind of knew who Myers was. Like when Loomis shows up in 4, the sheriff's like, how do we avoid a massacre like 10 years ago or whatever the fuck. Like, they all know who he fucking is. In this movie, I know the distance is longer, but in this movie, people moved on. And even in Resurrection, like, there was that danger team at the Myers house. Like, everyone knew Myers. In this fucking movie, David's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, and everyone in the town seems to have moved on, and it's like, again, David could just be wrong and a hippie and a druggie, but like, you know, it's just, it kind of makes the swerve in Kills, like, they kind of backtrack on that in Kills, where Tommy Doyle's in there, and stuff, which, I mean, I'm honestly glad they weren't in this movie, because like, There's one theme in this movie is Laurie's isolation, and it's like it doesn't really make sense why Laurie would not go to Tommy, but you know, whatever. Especially since they meet at that bar every year. That was establishing Kills, but you know, whatever. That's kill stuff. That's kill stuff. I mean, we don't know that in this movie. But again, I still feel like that's Kills' fault, not this, because Kills didn't have to bring that in. Kills didn't have to do that. But you know, we'll get to that when we get to Kills. So we meet Cameron, Allison's boyfriend, and Oscar, the incel, and then we get PJ Souls as the Fade voice. You know, we're doing introductory stuff. Here's the shot where it doesn't make much sense. Okay, when Allison's in the back of the classroom, like Laurie was, she looks out the window and she sees Laurie kind of staring at her through the window. Okay, I do not know why this shot is happening. Okay, and honestly, like, I've seen, like, I believe I saw this, I saw it at the drive-in once, and then I saw it in the theater. On my theater viewing, I remember that when this happened, people laughed at it. Like, they laughed at it. It was funny. Because it doesn't make much sense why it's happening. I don't get why the shot's happening. I mean, I guess they're still trying to communicate that there's, like, it could be trying to communicate the trauma and, like, Laurie's either damaged by Michael, or it's those lines between her and Michael, or Slim. But again, I already talked about how I don't like that approach to this movie, because again, the divide between them is very big. It's very big. So I don't fucking know. So that shot just happens, but again, it doesn't feel, there's no purpose for it. That's why you now know the other shot I'm talking about, it does have much more of a purpose, and that shot worked. This one, I didn't think did. Laurie gives Allison $3,000 because that's what the podcasters gave her to do the 4-minute interview or whatever the fuck. And the blocking here is actually pretty good, because Laurie's facing, like, Laurie has her back toward the camera, and Allison is facing the camera. Okay, and it works because, like, in this scene, you can kind of see that there's some distance kind of between them, where Allison views the world one way, or Laurie's views the world another way. Like, they're close, but they're far apart. It's all conveyed in the blocking. So that stuff right there is really good. Again, it's character work done through other means besides dialogue. I like that stuff. So that's really good. So the scene culminates. They talk for a second, and the scene culminates with Allison asking Laurie why she can't get over the boogeyman, and then her obsession with Myers ended up costing her family. Okay, Laurie's like, if Karen's prepared and your mother's prepared to deal with the horrors of the world, but she hates me, I guess I can live with that, or whatever the fuck. Okay. And then Allison's like, say goodbye to Michael and get over it. And the next scene, like, Laurie's like shooting fucking, like, she has this shotgun and she's shooting these Myers-like figurines in her backyard. She's boom, 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 boom. Like, she's fucking Doom guy shooting all the fucking Myers figurines. It's just like, I just feel like that's such a fictionalized version of this, though. Like, I mean, it's cool, I guess, in its own way. It's cool, I guess. But it's like, again, when we talked about how the H2O felt more natural, and like, even when she was fighting Myers, she just kind of, it kind of felt like somebody who was untrained just getting the better of the boogeyman. And that's like, she wasn't really obsessing over it every day of her life. She was just getting the better of him in the moment. In this movie, she's like Sarah Connor Terminator. Okay, like she's preparing for this and blah 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 blah. It's like, it's just like, I get that she's damaged and trauma born, and everybody handles their trauma differently, but I much prefer the Rob Zombie version. Like, I'm sorry, dude. The way that Laurie is handled, like, I honestly want to see a marriage between that Laurie and this one in this movie, if that makes any sense. But, like, obviously not, obviously not the whole point of, like, she sits in her chair and judges me like she's fucking God. Like, it's not that. It's not the screaming and the fighting or the constant F words. It's the fact that, it's just the fact that, like, that Laurie's trauma just felt more real, I guess. It felt more real, whereas this Laurie's trauma feels fabricated to give you the version of this character that's Sarah Connor's shotgun Terminator. It feels contrived to create a different Laurie that fits for this movie, okay? If that makes any sense. It's there to do that. It's there to serve the purpose of the movie, which is they want Laurie to be an expert marksman and shooting guns and all this shit. And she would set a trap for him in the house. And it's like, oh, she's traumatized. That's why she did all of it. Whereas, like, the Rob Zombie movie gave you an exploration into how Laurie is impacting Annie and, like, how she's fucking distancing herself and she's this whole new person and she's awful now and she's losing her nature to this man. Or it's like, they say she lost her family, but like, she lost her family because she was constantly trying to prepare Karen and making her shoot guns and shit, which we'll get to that. But it's like, it wasn't a natural falling out, okay? Like, all they really needed was, like, Laurie's obsessed with the boogeyman, I can't handle it anymore. That's all they really needed. But they try to do something deeper with the childhood. I don't know. Let's keep going. So, that's there. The next scene is the It Needs to Die scene, which is actually very good. This scene is very good. You have Loomis on the recording, and I liked that because it shows he ain't here no more. He's dead. Which, again, they talked about how Loomis died in the opening, but it's like, hearing him on the recording, it's like there's distance, but, like, Loomis ain't here. Laurie is on her own, isolated in her worldview. She has the correct mindset, but everyone else in town either disagrees with her or doesn't care. Which, again, Kills kind of ruins this aspect because it makes Laurie's worldview not... It's more shared than she realizes. The theme of Laurie's isolation that this movie provides is admittedly destroyed in Kills because of the fact that the whole town's like, evil dies tonight! Evil dies tonight! Evil dies tonight! So you lose that sense of Laurie's isolation. And again, maybe Kills handles it. It's like the bodies. I know the bodies at the hospital start racking up and shit, but it's like, from what I remember from Kills right now, it's that Tommy Doyle goes out and he starts this lynch mob going after the boogeyman, Michael Myers, right? So, after he gets out of the house or whatever. Because it's like, yeah. He escapes the house first. So it's like, I guess, like, like, the isolation's still there in this movie, but it's like, as soon as Tommy Doyle comes in and gets involved, it's like, it's not really an isolated thing anymore. And I think I think the scope of kills, again, this is something I talked about in the Rob Zombie review, again, well, the scope of kills is too big. It's too big. And I think that's something that's really, after watching this one again, that's something I actually don't like about kills, because again, when we talked about Evil Dies Tonight is trash and terrible, but it's like, you lose that scope, and it doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work as well as this one did, where Laurie's isolated in her mental, physical state, as well as her view of Myers and this man that no one cares about anymore. I liked it better when no one cared about Myers in this movie. When everybody else gets involved and goes, "Evil dies tonight," you kind of lose that aspect of Laurie's character in this. So, one of the better aspects of Laurie's character in this, because again, Laurie's not perfect in this. The Sarah Connor stuff should have been toned out, but again, It Needs to Die is playing. It's really good. And the guy who is doing Loomis's voice does a really good job. So, Michael is on the bus. Laurie is watching the bus pull out and go, and then she has this kind of episode, okay? And with the sirens going, like that scene's really good. That scene's really good. So, there's a bunch of BS. The next scene is they're at dinner. Cameron, Allison, Ray, and Karen are at dinner. And they're BSing. Again, they're like talking about not Myers, because these people don't care about Myers anymore. They don't care about him. I really, the more I sit here and think about it, the more I just really disagree with that choice they made in Kills to make everybody go out and hunt for him like a lynch mob. Because this movie is just like, a big theme of this movie is how everyone's moving on. And like, apparently not. Like, the Kills just kind of actually spits in the face of this movie's ideas a little bit. And I kind of don't know how I feel about that. Because the more I think about this, the more I think that's a big problem. But again, let's move on. So they're BSing at dinner, and I don't like this part. Okay, this is a problem with this movie. Okay, it's now the character. If you haven't caught on yet, the character that doesn't work in this movie is Karen. Karen just I don't know if it's the way she's written, acted, performed, pacing, scene selection, etc., etc. Just everything that is done, it might be all of them. Everything that is done in this movie does Karen Strode no favors. And also, everything outside the movie does Karen Strode no favors. Like, when you hear stories about how Danielle Harris called the studio and it's like, "I want Jamie Lloyd in this, and I want to be Jamie." And the studio's like, "No, sorry, not interested." Like, if you had Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd, like if Laurie had named the daughter Jamie and then had Danielle Harris play Jamie, you make Ray's last name Lloyd, Jamie Lloyd. There you go. So that's all the outside the movie stuff. So that's you can't really analyze that. But it's like, here's the issue, okay? Laurie comes up and they start talking. They have a nice conversation about the National Honor Society, blah, 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 blah. Like, Laurie is doing well, okay? She did just come from the bus crash, so she's obviously still not great. She then grabs a wine glass off the table and then drinks it. Now, yes, okay, this is a weird social interaction, because it's weird for Laurie to grab somebody else's drink and then just drink it. Like, that is weird. That's a weird cue. However, it is a weird cue. It's not hers. But I found Karen's response to that to be way too aggressive. Karen's like, "This is exactly why we don't reach out." Like, she's just such a bitch. And again, the thing you know about Laurie is, she's traumatized and she's not handling her situation well, but she's right. She's right. Okay? That's why it's hard for us to understand Karen's point, because we know she's right, and it's like, well, yeah, Laurie just did something socially awkward, but it's like Karen could have just said, "Jesus," or they could have just said, "Oh, Laurie, come down, we'll order you a drink." But it's also, what Karen does say, "I thought you quit drinking." Okay, she does say that before. She does say that before, but it's like there was no scene establishing the fact that Laurie came in. I think there's actually a deleted scene where they meet in the office or something, but it's like we don't get to see that in the main cut of the movie. We needed a scene with Laurie and Karen, because they even say that prior that Laurie came to see Karen in the office. We needed that scene really bad. We needed that scene really bad. We didn't get it. And because of that, it sounds like Karen just comes off as a fucking bitch and completely aggressive. And again, the audience still has that connection to Laurie because we know she's right about Myers. But we also, through the scenes with Allison, we sympathize with Allison's perspective as well, because we know that she doesn't really understand Myers, but she just wants the family to be unified. All we know about Karen is that at this point is that she wants to keep Laurie out. That's all we fucking know about this. We don't know much about it, so we can't. I couldn't find myself sympathizing with that aggression that she displayed. Maybe somebody else got it a little more, and maybe it worked. I didn't like it. I thought Karen's response was way, way too aggressive here. And the response that she gives, again, Laurie was doing well, okay? Like, she was okay and like, faking it, if you will. She was all right. However, as soon as Karen yelled at her and was like, this is why we don't reach out, Laurie completely lost it and broke down. I didn't like that either. Again, because Karen did that, you don't know what would happen if Laurie just had the drink and then sat down and Karen didn't say anything at all. Like, would Laurie have been able to keep going? Like, it just feels like everything about that scene came off as Karen being a bitch. Like, the intention may have just been Laurie's not able to function in a normal conversation. I would have rather just the conversation have been normal and then Laurie just broke down. It's like, oh, I saw the shape. And then they get mad at her. The problem is it didn't feel like Laurie's outburst was her own fault. It felt like Karen was just being overly aggressive and that caused her to break down. Like Karen is like trying to like break Laurie down on purpose so then she can then go to Allison and go, well, you see, look, we just tried and then Laurie couldn't handle it even though I was a fucking rude bitch and was aggressive. Like, you know what I mean? It felt like Karen was just trying to convey her own worldview across, especially as soon as Laurie leaves because she's breaking down. Karen's like, I'm glad you got to see that. Never told you how I spent my childhood. And it's like, you're the one who just set that entire train of events off. If you just kept your fucking mouth shut. I know it's weird she grabbed the drink, and apparently she did say that she stopped drinking, and she is drinking, so that would obviously set you off. But, like, there was definitely a better way to handle that than, this is exactly why we don't reach out. Like, you know, it just comes off as she's a fucking aggressive bitch. You know? Everything in that scene just needed more work. And Karen just, Karen needed more development prior to that scene because we don't really understand her perspective. Until now, where we're about to get it. So, like, Laurie runs out. She hears the siren in her head, which was a good touch. And then she leaves. Okay, Allison gives her a hug and then she leaves. And then Karen's like, I'm never telling you how I spent my childhood. And then it flashes back a little bit to like some scenes of Karen like spending her childhood. And she does a bad job of conveying it. She's like, I learned how to shoot a gun when I was 8. Yeah, Child Protective Services came in and took me when I was 12. But it's like, I mean, and then the flashbacks show her like punching stuff, but it's like, it's just not conveyed very well. I just didn't really like how it did that. Just to put that into perspective, okay? This would have been over the top if they did it, but it's like, and I'm not saying this is what they should have done, but like, okay, there's a scene in a Star Wars comic where Vader and Tarkin like hunt each other. That would have been cool in this. Something like that, where it's like they're doing this weird exercise, or maybe Laurie could say, like, I need you to go out and kill this, and have it, like, you need to go out and hunt, or something like that. Like, Vader and Tarkin, like try to, like, kill each other. That's how they gain respect for each other in the Star Wars comic. Now, again, different genre. And then sticking with Star Wars, I haven't seen Tales of the Jedi yet, but there's a thing in the trailer where Anakin is training Ahsoka about how to, like, deflect these bullets, and she eventually uses this move to defeat the clone troopers that are coming to kill her in Order 66. And they show Anakin teaching her that, but, like, Anakin's teaching methods are very brutal, and Ahsoka is, like, getting hit by these like mock blaster bolts, and she's in pain, and Anakin's like, again, and it like zooms in on his eyes, which again, good, that's good for Star Wars. And so I'm not saying rip that off one for one, but it's like there's definitely aspects that you could have highlighted or showed that are better than the ones that Karen picked in her dialogue, and then the flashbacks that were shown didn't really do much to convey what exactly was going on. Why is Karen so traumatized? Why does she not want Laurie near Allison? The stuff that they chose just didn't really give the impression that Laurie was like the worst parent ever. Now it's like, yeah, she's not a good parent. Certainly, you're making your 8-year-old shoot guns. Like, that's obviously not good. But it's like, I think they could have done something better to justify Karen's aggression, if that makes any sense. We don't really get what we needed to, I don't think. Again, those are just, like, I gave some ideas from like Star Wars, but like maybe there's some horror ideas that might have been a little better here. Like, maybe, like, again, like, just Karen, like, I don't know, maybe Laurie would, like, scare her with those mannequins that she had, where it was, like, she would wake her, like, she would wake her up in the middle of the night, or maybe she, like, cut Karen to, like, make her be able to fight through pain or something. Like, she would cut her and then make her go out and hunt to, like, make sure she could still, like, you know, stuff like that. If you bring the physical into it, I could see it a little more, but they didn't really do that, so Karen just kind of felt like a clown at this point, at least to me. Okay? At least to me. So Rey's like, it's not your job to save Laurie, which that was an okay line. So the next scene, here we go. There's some hunter and his kid who has the most obnoxious voice in the world. Dad! 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 I don't like that kid. So basically, when the bus crashes, they see the kid and his dad see this bus crash. Okay. By the way, the song that's playing is the song Laurie was singing in the original movie, where Myers is staring at her from the back. Lovely touch there. Very good stuff. So the dad goes out to go, like, I'm gonna go search the bus. Okay. And then the kid goes, and then the kid calls 911, and then obviously dumbass gets out of the car because he's dumb, and then he, like, shoots Sartain, which is really funny, because he, like, shoots Sartain. Sartain's like, don't shoot, and then the kid shoots him. Because he's, like, 11 years old or whatever the fuck. So then, kid runs back to his car. Myers had gotten in the car, and then he actually kills the kid, which is impressive, because I think this is the first time he's killed a kid on screen. So it was a very interesting way of setting up this Myers as like a killing machine, to where his first on-screen kill in the movie is actually a child. So they did a very bold choice, especially for like a safe movie like this. That's one of the bolder choices, to actually kill off a kid. It's not very violent. He just kind of rams him into the window and then snaps his neck. But still, the choice to kill that kid was effective, because Myers passes a baby, and it's like, holy shit, is he gonna kill the baby too? Like, because he killed that kid, it was like nothing's off the table now. So I thought that choice was really, really good. Okay, Hawkins shows up. He's here. Okay, and then he finds Sartain. Okay, and I want to talk about this bus crash now. The bus crash, I have a major complaint with it. We don't know what the hell. We don't know how it crashed. Okay, we don't know how it crashed. There was a theory that Laurie is the one who actually made the bus crash. That doesn't really work the deeper you go into it. Like, yes, she would have a motive for making the bus crash, because she wants Myers out so she can kill him, and she actually does say that later in the movie, that she wants Myers out so she can kill him. But, like, how is she making the bus crash, bro? How is she making the bus crash? She's sitting there drinking wine or whatever the fuck. She's screaming and crying, watching the bus leave, and then what'd she do? Go up and just fucking ram it off the road? And then what? She leaves and then goes to see Allison and the family like nothing happened. And it's like, wouldn't people be like, isn't there a cop on that bus? Wouldn't the cop have gotten like a plate number on her and then reported that to, I don't know. The Laurie bus theory is like a very surface level thing. And that's it. Like, that for me that doesn't work. Okay. So then here's the next thing. Sartain says that Myers overtakes the guards and, makes the bus crash. Okay, sure, maybe, but we don't see it. We don't see it, and we learn that Sartain is not the most reliable person in the world later in the movie. So there's a possibility that he was just trying to get people, like, invested in finding Myers so he could watch Myers work, right? There's an alternative theory that he just wants the law enforcement involved to make sure Michael gets back, and stuff like that. He wants Michael's in his own care, so he's going to say whatever he needs to say to make that happen. Or the third possibility, random crash, and I don't like that either. I don't like random crash. I don't like the random crash because it's not Myers getting out under his own power. Myers needs to get out under his own power. If it's just a random crash, what you're telling me is that if that fucking bus made it to Glass Hill, Myers would never be out. Myers would never be out. And it's just he was complete fucking chance. So, I don't like that. I like Myers being in complete control of what he's doing. So the bus crash is a spotty thing for me at best. I'm very surprised they didn't do anything with it in the sequel. We got 2 sequels and no information on the bus crash. So that's fucking weird. But, okay. The next scene is the podcasters are at the graveyard, and they're talking about Judith. And I like the added detail that they give. When they talk about Judith getting fucking killed, they talk about how Michael, scraped her spinal cord or something, and then he stabbed her in the hands and sliced her arteries and then stabbed her. I liked all that because it demonstrates that this kid, who was 6 years old, was already brutally efficient at what he did. The supernatural aspect of this character made him brutally efficient at 6. And we talked about how his age doesn't matter. That's what's being conveyed there. This kid was a brutal killing machine and an efficient killing machine at 6 years old. His age doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how young he is or how old he is. He can scrape your spinal cord. He can slice your arteries at whatever age he needs to be. So, there you go. So, I like that detail. We get introduced to the sheriff. Doesn't say much. So, here we are with the podcasters, okay? So, girl podcaster's got to go to the bathroom. Dana, she got to go to the bathroom. She's in the final stall because every other thing has shit did, right? So, Myers comes in is in the jumpsuit at this point. He parks in his gown, and then he comes in the jumpsuit. And then I liked how he, teased her by, opening up all the doors and slowly getting closer to her. That was cool. That was cool. He was just building up that kind of suspense factor in her that he he kind of likes to do, where he plays with his victims first. So I like that. Then he lines himself up, and then he drops the teeth, okay? And I really, really liked this. This was in the trailer a lot, but not, him dropping the teeth was wonderful. It's such a Myers thing to do, for one. It's such a Myers thing to do, to drop the teeth. Jason wouldn't do that, or Freddy wouldn't do that. Ghostface wouldn't do that. It's so Myers to just reach above the stall and drop the teeth. He wants you to see him. Look what I did. That's Myers, dude. But he did it in a way that kind of fused the brutality of what you need from a modern day horror movie, and the Rob Zombie Myers, because the Rob Zombie Myers was more brutal, but you refuse that brutality with the Myers with the shape that we know, and I just really liked that. Okay, so I like the way Myers changes his position as Dana crawls underneath, and then you get the kills of the podcasters. Okay, now again, we'll talk about that in a second, but the way that they're done here, he shows you the brutality and the efficiency. Those are the themes we're getting here. The brutality and the efficiency. He kills Aaron brutally by slamming his head and using it as the battering ram to get in the door and slamming him all over the place. He's a bloody mess. Okay, so he's the brutal kill. And then after he gets to Dana, all he does is choke her and snap her neck, and she's taken care of. So you get the brutality in then one kill and the efficiency in another kill. So right after each other. So that aspect, really fucking good. How they were able to do both of those at once. So yeah, that was really good. And then he gets the mask, he puts it on, he's breathing, he slams the car door down, and it's hell yeah, bro, here we go. Now we're watching fucking Halloween. Now we're watching Halloween. This shit's getting good. So, then what happens is that, I will say, though, before we go any further, actually, that, I still think killing the podcasters was definitely a mistake. because I feel like they had more to, like, give. Okay? Maybe Dana. Maybe you can get rid of Dana. But, like, Aaron, I really thought Aaron could have definitely been a foil to Laurie, like, throughout the trilogy. I feel like he had more to do. I feel like he could have, like, especially in Ends, bro. Especially in fucking Ends, where, like, that version of Laurie was, like, ready to, like, tell her story, right? And she was writing her book. Where she wasn't really ready to tell her story in this one. But, like, if you had Aaron in there in Ends, and he, like, had his perspective change on Myers and blah, 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 blah. Like, this is something Dr. Wolfie kind of started on in his review. But, I mean, I'm adding to it because it's like, if Aaron was in Ends, like, he could have replaced that radio host. Or, you know, there could have been something to merge that, like, it could have been, there could be less fodder characters overall, where if Aaron was kind of kept around, he could have had a smaller role in Kills or something like that, and then in Ends, he could have definitely been, like, making a podcast with Laurie or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like the podcasters have more to do, and I thought offing them this early could have definitely was a mistake, and definitely could have been done a little bit more. But it's not the biggest deal in the world. So, next scene, you get Laurie seeing Myers, like, seeing the news and shit, and then she, like, opens up this hole in her basement, and it's going, and it's like, how the fuck she build this shit? That's what I want to know. How the fuck she, like, build this shit? Okay, so, after that shit, we get Karen, like, coming home or something, and, like, you can already tell, like, her Strode's going off. Like, she kind of knows that there's something wrong. And like, Ray has no fucking clue that Laurie's in the house. But, like, Laurie comes out, she goes, "Boom, gotcha, you're dead." which is kind of, I mean, it was kind of funny. But Laurie's like, "You have no security system, Karen." And, like, I liked this scene at the start. A lot of scenes in this, like, they start off bad or start off good, but then they, like, fall apart. I like the beginning and stuff, but as soon as, like, Laurie was like, "I've been training you and preparing you for this. We got to hunt him down." I thought that was a little too far. And, like, and then Karen has a cringy line where she's like, "The world is not a dark and evil place. It is full of love and light, and I'm not going to let your lies and confuse me anymore." And, like, that line was really bad. Like, I feel like you could have said what you were trying to say there in a less cringy way. You know. Whatever. So that's it. Nothing too there. It's like, it's weird. It's still weird because Laurie, this is something we've been talking about, how Laurie is technically the one that's, like, doing the insane thing where she's breaking into her daughter's house just to go, "Ha, gotcha, we gotta hunt Myers down now, we gotta get him." But it's like Karen still comes off as looking like the bitch or looking stupid. I mean, at least that's what I thought watching this. It's like Karen still comes off as looking like the clown. It really does. Oh, God. So, like, we find out that Hawkins was there, and next scene, blah, 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 blah. Here, next scene, we get the long shot. Here we go. This is a scene I really like. I think everybody likes this scene. It's the one of, like, if there's cuts, it's hard to tell where they are. It's the shot of Myers, like a kid bumps into him, and then he's, like, walking. His theme song's playing in the background. This scene, I think, is important because it shows you Myers' thoughts and his perspectives in this movie. We've talked about this on stream before. Myers, in this movie, he's having fun, man. He's out after 40 years. He's a kid in a candy store. He's, like, walking around. This bitch comes out of her shed. Myers, he's like, "Ooh, what's this?" He, like, picks up the hammer. He's like, "Ooh, what's this thing?" And then he goes in. He kills her with the hammer. It's like, "Oh, really big fun." And then he goes over. It's like, "Ooh, what's this now?" Like, you know, he kills her, kills one person, moves on, walks out the front door. His theme song's playing. Like, they're picking times to, like, play it and stuff. He's comfortable and he's happy to be doing what he's doing. He's just exploring his options, exploring what he can do, who can he get. It's really solid. It gives you everything you need to know about Myers in one long shot. He's like that's his perspective in this movie. Really good stuff right there. And one of the victims, the first one, it's actually a reference to Halloween 2. So that's really cute. How he's able to like there's like that I think it's the way she's dressed and the way that she's got her hair up. Like, it's a big, nice Halloween 281 reference. So that scene's really good, and it really is important because it shows you. Was I on the Rob Zombie version? Look at that. It's on the wrong picture. We're doing. My mind's a mess right now, lads. So, we get some kills foreshadowed where we see some of the Halloween Kills characters. But the next scene is the dance scene with the knockoff version of I Don't Care. I Don't Care. That's very obvious. The song, and that's a very obvious ripoff of it. So Allison gets separated from Cameron, and she calls Vicky, who's like babysitting. She's not at the dance. They're separated. She's babysitting Julian. He's kind of funny. The kid's kind of funny. Some people might have found that a bit over the top, though, because like the kid's dialogue is like gets in the way of the tone. But I thought it was all right. I thought it was doing good because like so some of their banter was like it was fine. Their banter was good. So Allison returns to the dance and she sees Cameron kissing some Tigger the Tiger bitch. And basically, she gets in a fight with Cameron, and the whole point here is you're realizing really fast that they want to delete Allison's phone. That's what's going on here. The reason that Cameron exists in this movie is because they want to delete Allison's phone because Allison's phone is an inconvenience that they want to see gotten rid of for the second and third act to actually get off the ground. Right? That's what's going on here. So... So, Cameron, after this is like, I feel like there was a better way to get rid of her phone. Like, I'm not really sure what it was off the top of my head. Like, I honestly just wanted to say, like, have Myers break it when he's chasing her or something. I just feel like getting rid of her phone in this way was really, like, tacked on. Because, like, Myers doesn't start chasing her until her phone's already gone anyway. I just feel like Myers could have easily done something to get rid of it in that situation. I don't know. And Cameron leaves the movie at that point, though. I know they already had, like, sequels agreed upon in the contract when they signed it and shit. But basically, that aspect of the movie could have been handled a lot better. So, Dave shows up at the house, pointless shit happens, and then Julian ends up coming down the stairs going, there's someone in my room. And Vicky takes him upstairs, and then Dave has this really weird scene where he fucks off, smokes weed on a motorcycle. I don't know what's going on there. And then we get to Vicky getting killed, and this scene was actually in the trailer, and I think the trailers showed too much for this movie, because I remember the marketing, this was one of the big shots in the marketing, where Joey's like, close the closet door, Vicky, and then Vicky goes and she can't shut it, and that's because Myers is in the fucking closet. He comes out and slashes her, and then Julian goes, oh shit, which actually got laughs. That was when the comedy interfered a bit too much. But I feel like that would have been much more effective if we didn't see it in the trailer. But whatever. It's still good because again, I can't be saying that it was in the trailer, fucking 4 years later, and that's why it wasn't good. So it was still pretty good. Also, although I did feel like when she's like Julian run, when she says that, I felt like that needed another take, or just don't say it at all. Like she's like Julian run. That was kind of bad. I didn't think she should have said that, or they should have had another take of it. So then Julian's like, "You're gonna get killed, Dave!" And then Dave runs up the stairs, and he predictably gets slammed through the wall. But that's done off screen. So basically, this disturbance causes like the police to know that something happened, and Laurie somehow has access to police equipment. I don't understand this. They never really explain this either. Like, Laurie just has access to the police's radio. So I don't know how she has access to that, but, whatever. So Hawkins goes in the house, and Vicky's dressed up as a ghost, which is a cute callback to the original, and then Dave's pinned to the wall. Laurie then sees Myers on the mirror, okay? Like, she thinks that Myers sees her, and then he shoots, but it's actually just, he's staring at himself in the mirror. And this is your first subtle clue that Laurie's not really getting the full picture here. Which is, Laurie thinks that Myers is after her, he's obsessed with her, and he's coming for her, right? But, like, she shoots the thingamajig, and like, the glass breaks, and Myers fucking doesn't even know she's there. It's also unclear if Myers remembers Laurie at this point. Like, Laurie then, like, follows Myers, and, like, Myers ain't even paying any attention to her, and she actually ends up shooting him, okay? But Myers doesn't even acknowledge her existence, which is, like, this is the way people wanted it, where it's like Myers is the boogeyman again. He's not really after any specific person. He's doing his own thing. He's after anybody that gets in his way, but overall, he's just there to kill people. He's not after any specific person. So that's your first clue with Laurie seeing him and shooting, but he's not really seeing her at all. That Laurie's not getting that, and this would be expanded upon in kills. So that, like, all that's really good. Okay, Sartain shows up and is brought in because he was passed out before, but now he's brought up. And this is another subtle clue that Sartain is kind of a clown. And we'll talk about Sartain and what they should have done with them when the twist actually happens. But until then, like, this subtle buildup of the Sartain shit was actually better than I remember it was. Not to say it's great and the twist is still executed really fucking bad. But, like, this actual, like, the actual buildup wasn't terrible. Like, when Laurie sees Sartain, she's like, "You're the new Loomis," okay? And then Sartain starts talking, right? Like, Laurie was like, she, like, sighs and goes, "You're the new Loomis." Like, she was almost comforted for a second, but as soon as Sartain starts talking, she makes a face. Like, as soon as he starts saying, "I read everything about you and Michael." Everything. Laurie's face, like, kind of like, ugh. Like, she makes this kind of sketched out face out of, because Laurie, as soon as Sartain starts talking, Laurie can tell that Sartain does not share her view of Myers, because just as soon as he starts talking, he's like, he's one of those that wants to study Michael, and he has this fixation on him that Loomis never had, and that she doesn't have. Well, she does have a fixation on Michael to a certain degree, with wanting to get rid of him and all. But Laurie's fixation is not the same fixation that Sartain has. So, like, Laurie understands right away that Sartain's fixation is not the same as hers, and that Sartain's not trying to get rid of him. Laurie sees that right away, and because you can tell because of the face that she makes. So, I thought that was, again, the Sartain stuff, these little clues were a little better than I remember, but, again, it's still overall bad, and we'll get to why. So, Allison and Oscar the incel are walking home, and Allison's just bitching about Cameron. That's all you get next. So, the very next scene after Allison and Oscar the incel are walking, we've established that Allison is alone, so obviously Myers is about to show up. And the next scene, Sartain's talking about fucking Myers again, and "I want to talk about what pleasure he gets out of killing." Like, Sartain's not taking this very seriously. Like, he's thinking about Myers, and, like, this is such a big golden opportunity to kind of understand him, right? It's not, he wants to get what Myers thinks, you know? The scene actually starts with Hawkins talking about Laurie, and Sartain actually redirects the conversation over to Myers, because that's all he really fucking cares about. He doesn't care about Laurie, but he cares about Myers, and, like, so he was able to direct the conversation over. So I thought that was actually pretty good. So basically, after that, Laurie brings the cops to Karen and Ray, so they know that the threat is real now. And so Allison and Oscar the incel are now taking the shortcut, and then Oscar tries to get laid, and it doesn't work. So Allison then ditches him. So now Myers is there. They do a cute little jump scare with the lights. It was very Lights Out-esque from what I remember. Like, the lights go on and off, and Myers only moves when the lights are off for a little bit. And so, like, just to see Myers, like, sitting there in the dark and in silhouette, like, he looks really good. And the mask looks really good in this movie, too. We really don't need to say that, because y'all fucking know that. But, so, like, Myers is, like, they use the lights to do a little scare. Oscar kills Oscar the incel, and then that lures Allison back, and then you get the Shape Hunts Allison, which is a really good song, but, like, it's kind of misleading, because, like, he doesn't really chase her very much. And the song's kind of short, too. I mean, it's still really good, but it's just, I wish the scene was a little bit longer. Because he doesn't really chase Allison as much as the song implies he's chasing Allison. And, like, Allison actually, like, goes in, and she actually knocks on someone's door, and people let her in. Well, that's different. I wish Jamie Lee had that luxury in 1978, man. So, Karen's being a total Karen with the police. It's like, if you obviously aren't able to identify her, or she's being a Karen, and then Laurie yells at her. She's like, Karen! It's demonstrating that Laurie still has some parental power over Karen. That's going to be used in the later scenes. Also, Karen's inexperience with the situation is kind of showing, and that like she's losing, like she doesn't really know what to do. She's in total panic mode, and it's like she needs to remember her training. Like she doesn't, she's in total panic mode and she's losing control of the situation. So, like, we're getting lots of little short scenes going on right now. You get one short scene to one short scene to one short scene to one short scene that some of them don't really do a whole lot. So, kind of an interesting direction to take it. I don't know, is it genuinely effective? I mean, we're getting from one place to the other really fast. Like, we're at Laurie's house now. But, we don't really, bleh. Like, it's just, the short scenes, I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like they could have definitely made it a little smoother if they did some different things with certain cuts and like maybe make the Oscar shit one scene. I don't know. Just I feel like the pacing's getting a little off. The pacing is genuinely okay, but like this section is definitely the weakest. So Allison meets Hawkins and Sartain, and then we start the drive to Laurie's house, okay? So basically, inside Laurie's house, Karen has another stupid line where she fucking, like, she activates the thingamajig to go down to the basement, and Ray's like, what is that? And then Karen goes, it's my childhood. And this is something I didn't like, because as soon as the crisis started, as soon as it became clear that Myers was here, I wanted Karen to instantly shut the fuck up. I wanted her to shut up. Like she's like, you're wrong, Karen. Myers is here now. Blah, 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 blah. But she's still bitching, and it's like, shut the fuck up, Karen. And then Laurie starts passing around guns and starts telling people what they do, and she's like, he's waited for this night. He's waited for me, and I've waited for him. Blah, 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 blah. Like she starts being super dramatic, giving trailer lines, Sarah Connor-esque lines. And again, that's the part where it might be over the top and unrealistic to some people, especially in the post Rob Zombie world. Like but like some people like it because like Laurie's ready to kick his ass. It just depends on how you view it. Okay, so here we go. Here's the fucking really awful scene. Okay, this here is probably the worst scene in the movie, probably. So Myers is walking, and then I think his theme song's actually playing, and they're in the car, and then the Sartain and Allison now is in the car. Allison, Sartain, and Hawkins spot Myers, and then Hawkins crushes him. Okay, he slams him with the car and it's like, I'm gonna blow his brains out. And then Sartain gets in front of him and he's like, no, you killed Michael, he's dead. And then it's becoming clear that like fucking Hawkins is gonna like, he's trying to go further than Sartain wants to go. So Sartain grabs like this scalpel and then he stabs him in the throat, and then stabs him again when he's on the ground, okay? Now, this, as good as it is, as better as the foreshadowing was, like the entire thing still came off out of nowhere. Like, the foreshadowing was better. It was. And, like, there was a lot of stuff with Sartain where if you pick his dialogue apart, you watch the facial expressions, you can tell that, like, there was always an off vibe about him from the other characters. But this was still executed and done way too fucking early. It was. It was. Dumbass then puts the mask on, okay? So, and it's at this point, I'm watching this movie for the first time post-Halloween Ends. I'm watching this movie, dumbass comes up, puts the mask on, and I now realize the two biggest problems with the trilogy. Well, three, because I actually am going to bash Kills more about how it takes away the isolation from Laurie, but, you know, it's at this point where I understand what's wrong with this trilogy, okay? The two biggest flaws are the Sartain twist, okay, was done too early, executed very poorly, and Corey Cunningham, right, in Halloween Ends, where Corey Cunningham kind of came out of nowhere. You have these two things that honestly have similar problems. They're too close to Michael, and they both come out of nowhere, right? So guess where I'm going with this? The way you correct both of these issues is that Dr. Sartain and Corey Cunningham should have been combined to form a new character, lads. That character's name is Dr. Sartain. Abso-fucking-lutely. That's absolutely. Sartain and Corey should have been combined to form a new character called Dr. Sartain. What you should have done here is that you should have saved 30 years off of Sartain to make him young and inexperienced, okay? Because he's young and inexperienced, this further distances him from Dr. Loomis. Whereas right now, he's still kind of old and he was a student of Dr. Loomis. And it makes no sense that a student of Dr. Loomis kind of got this corrupted, where Loomis probably would have definitely fucking banned this guy from reading all the Myers shit when he realized that this guy's as fucking as crazy as Myers is. But if you make Sartain like 30 years younger, fresh out of college, and ready to tackle this big Myers project, you have him like more inexperienced and more willing to like be in over his head, right? And then you have three movies, right? Where in this movie he's more down the middle, where it's like he understands what's going on is like really bad, but he still has this curiosity about Myers that just doesn't seem to go away. And then Kills, and like this pacing where this character is frustrated that he's not learning much about Myers throughout this, because it doesn't make any sense to him. Like, he's sitting there maybe in Kills in the next movie and he's going, I just don't understand like how I've learned nothing through all of this. Like, I don't understand how I've seen Myers in the wild now, like Dr. Loomis. Like, he had this fascination with Loomis being the only one to see him in the wild. And so he could be like, I've seen him in the wild and I still don't know anything. There's still so much about this guy I don't know, right? And you can just have him, like, you can just have him basically kind of losing his sanity throughout the trilogy about how he can't learn anything, he can't understand Myers, and he's already feeling that, like, his life's work is a failure, right? Like, he's feeling like a failure because he's not getting anything. And like that process and that idea of him like not being able to fulfill his work or something is making him kind of go off the rails. Okay, he's obsessed with his work, kind of like a Dr. Frankenstein-esque, where he's obsessed with his work, neglecting his family. You can obviously give him more development because he doesn't have much development in this outside of the Myers stuff. So you give him more development. Honestly, you want to know the truth? The main character of Halloween Ends should have been Dr. Sartain. Yep. He should die in Ends the same way he dies in this movie, where all of his work is for nothing, right? Like, that's how he should go out. You shave off, you learn about how he neglects his family, he's kind of a cocksucker, maybe starts drinking, and obviously you have Ends take place more in the future, so he's a little bit older and stuff. But in Ends, he dies the same way that he dies in this movie, where he say something, and because he's still obsessed with learning, and then Michael just steps on him. Like, he was okay with dying if it meant that Michael spoke to him. Like, kind of like that. You have that arc over 3 movies, and there you go. And then, like, if you really want to keep the bullshit where Myers is weaker, you could have Sartain being the one that's kind of, like, obviously you have him, like, after Myers gets 1 kill, you have him completely revitalized and completely back, and then Sartain, like, his obsession with Myers and learning, like, got Myers back to full strength accidentally. If you really want to keep him being weak, which I don't. But it's like, you don't need Corey. That's the point. You have these 2 major flaws, and both of them wear the fucking Michael Myers mask. They should both have been combined to one character. They really should have. Like, like, after Sartain, like, after Myers disappears at the end of Kill, Sartain should have, like, been crazy obsessed with finding him, and, like, you know what I'm saying? Is all this making any sense? Because he's younger and inexperienced, Myers is able to corrupt him and turn him into something where he actually does end up killing, because that obsession with wanting to understand Michael goes that far. Again, over 3 movies, this could have been done well. The problem is here that it's not done well here because it's super rushed and still comes off out of nowhere. It doesn't work here. It doesn't work here. And it would fix the 2018 pacing issue and the Halloween Ends issue where Corey just shouldn't be in the fucking movie at all, right? It would get rid of that ridiculous Corey plot, get rid of the ridiculous shit with Corey and Allison in Halloween Ends, and have it focus more on what the fuck is going on with Sartain and Myers, like it should have been. And, like, you could have him, like, be pulling Laurie back into his end. Laurie's trying to move on in Ends, right? That's her whole thing. So Laurie and Sartain could be like, Sartain, I'm done with this. I'm over this. I'm not, I don't want any part of this guy anymore. Like, you gotta have, and Sartain's like, how could you not? Like, the obvious conflict between a Laurie that's trying to move on past, Halloween Kills, where Myers killed her daughter. But I mean, I've always disagreed with that character choice, and we'll get to, that's another Ends review for another day. But if you want to keep some of Ends' ideas intact and do them more successfully to where they don't insult the franchise to an extreme degree, this could be one of the ways that you do it. Have Sartain replace Corey, and then have this whole arc about him wanting to learn about Myers be expanded upon over 3 movies. That way, when you're at Ends, the whole thing isn't coming off out of nowhere, which is one of the biggest problems with Ends. It's one of the biggest problems with Ends, that the whole thing just kind of comes off out of nowhere, shoehorned in, it doesn't make any sense. Where if you're slowly building this character up over 3 movies to have him kind of be the lunatic and show him that, show how Myers' influence and corruption turn him into another personification of evil, sure, I'd be willing to accept something like that. But in Ends, the whole problem was, damn, Corey Cunningham, I got the devil's eyes, bro! And that, it didn't work, right? So getting rid of that plot line and replacing it with Sartain over the course of 3 movies would have definitely been a lot better. It would have, and it's that's what I mean about how some of Ends' ideas could have worked if they were executed across the course of the trilogy. Because I really think if that's what they had done and kind of fused the Sartain and Corey plots, this would be a much better paced trilogy, and Ends would be more well received because they're not disrespecting the character of Myers, for one. Because Myers wouldn't get disrespected in that interpretation. Obviously, he would still be the big bad. Whereas they made Corey the big bad, which was a huge fucking mistake. That's just a fucking first draft suggestion about how you would fucking fix this trilogy. Because, Ends does make this trilogy significantly worse. But, that's my idea on the Sartain angle. It would fix the Corey and Sartain angle at the same time, which would be really good. So, Sartain dumps Myers in the back, and then he runs, and then this is another issue I have, okay? Sartain dumps Myers in the back of the car and gives him his mask back, thank fucking God. And he then takes the car and he fucking runs over Hawkins. And at this point, I'm just going, did people just forget about this? He fucking runs him over. Seriously, go back and rewatch it if you forgot this part. Because, when Cameron shows up and kills and see Sartain, he's bleeding from the neck a whole bunch, right? Like he was stabbed by the scalpel. Did you just forget that fucking Sartain ran him over? No, he's dead, bro. He's dead. Now, killing off Hawkins was the incorrect narrative decision. It was, especially giving him this lame death via Sartain, which again, if you do the same death in Ends, it's fine. But here, it was so poorly paced and so poorly executed that in Hawkins, we know that he was there in 78 at this point, but we don't know much about it. Killing off Hawkins, totally the incorrect narrative choice here. Totally incorrect. But at the same time, commit to the choice. they made the choice, and I don't know if Kills going back on it was necessarily the right call either, because I feel like they just chose to go, I feel like here's what they did. When they saw the reviews for 2018, they're like, oh, killing off Hawkins was a mistake. Why'd you do that? So when they made Kills, they just said, oh, he's not actually dead. We didn't kill him off. Bullshit, you didn't kill him off. He hit him with the car. He's gone. His dick is destroyed. A fucking 5,000-pound machine hit him right in the crotch. He's fucked, dude. And it hits him fucking dick to fucking nose. Like, if he's alive, he's confined to a wheelchair the rest of his life. And probably half paralyzed. Well, yeah, that's what being in the wheel. But, like, his face barely works either. Like, he's on fucking life support the rest of his fucking life. He's not walking again in Ends. That's ridiculous. So, Sartain begins to bring Michael to Laurie because Michael doesn't know where to go. Remember, Sartain knows where the house is. So, Sartain is going to be the one that brings him to Laurie. Okay? So, he's, like, talking about the reunion between Michael and Laurie. And, like, that how he thinks that he's theorizing that that's what keeps Myers and Laurie both alive. And, obviously, that's not true. He's completely wrong. But, like, we got to have the climax of the movie, right? So, there you go. There's then a very bad scene. In terms of comedy scenes, this is definitely the worst. They talk about fucking banh mi sandwiches, and there's these two cops talking about sandwiches. It's not funny, it's terrible, and it shouldn't be in the movie. I don't really know what that is. Okay, at this point, especially, and then, like, that's like a bad scene that you're now, like at this point, the movie is losing momentum. Like, a lot. Because the Sartain shit was really fucking bad. Right? The Sartain twist being executed like garbage. You're now going, what in the fuck is happening? And so the banh mi sandwich shit happening right after the Sartain twist, definitely not what you wanted to see. And then, to make matters worse, the next scene is also really bad. And it's Sartain again. Okay? Sartain is enthralled about the possibilities of Michael being in an uncontrolled environment and then theorizes that he might even be able to speak tonight. Right? He implies that, like, he could even speak tonight. Like, that'd be crazy. And then Allison's in the back, and Allison's like, he spoke to me. Okay, this is a fucking 18-year-old girl, right? Allison's like, he spoke to me, and then fucking dumbass fucking stops the car, right? And he's like, what did he say? What did he say? And Allison's like, one word. Like, dumbass is so fucking retarded, and he doesn't even consider the possibility that Allison's lying to him. Especially when Allison's like, let me go, and I'll tell you what he said. Sartain's just like, what did he say? I must know the word. I must know the word. Like, it's so fucking stupid because, like, and the sad part is you really didn't need any of this crap because Myers wakes up 10 seconds later and kicks the thing in and kills, like, he kicks the thing in. And so this entire scene was pointless. Like, you didn't have to make this character look really fucking dumb, especially when we're on the fence about him right now anyway because this twist is not working right now. It's not working. So, at this point, it's like you really needed to make this character competent, and the next scene they chose to make him a fucking dumbass. Like, he's just gonna listen and believe Allison about whatever she says, especially when, like, she doesn't fucking, like, she doesn't, like, what was the word? And she, like, sits there in awkward silence. Like, she didn't really know what to say next. Like, but then when Myers thankfully wakes up and he puts the fucking shit out of its misery. Okay, so thank God for that. The scene ends well because Myers kicks the thing in and then he throws Sartain on the ground. And then Sartain, I did like this aspect of his character where he goes, say something. Like, he wants to know what Michael is going to say. And of course, Michael doesn't give him anything and he just steps on him. And so the death in that aspect of it is cool. But again, the pacing of the twist is just so awful. And this should have been done in Ends. This absolutely 100% should have been done in Ends. All of it. It gives you more things to do in Ends. It gives Myers more to do in Ends. And it fixes the core problems of both movies to where this twist doesn't work in this one. And then Ends is a pile of vomit. It would fix the pacing here and make Ends not a pile of vomit. So there you go. That's my thoughts on that. That is my full thoughts on the Sartain twist now that we have all three movies. Which is, again, I'm glad, like, we can look at that now because, again, you couldn't really decide what to do with the Sartain twist until Ends came out. But now that Ends came out and we have the whole trilogy, we can now look at the Sartain twist and go, what should they have done to, like, make this not terrible? So, Myers then kills the sandwich cops off screen, and then we're finally back at the fucking house, okay? Laurie and Karen, like, have this bond moment or something, and it doesn't really work because the relationship's still written poorly. The character work in this is just, between Laurie and Karen, the Laurie-Karen stuff is not very good. Allison is definitely the stronger character at this point. And it's unfortunate that, like, Karen wasn't really written well, and, like, all the scenes with Laurie and Karen weren't really written well, because it makes this stuff not very good. Because, like, Laurie's like, I'm so sorry, Karen, I'm so sorry. And Karen's like, you want him to come here, don't you? And Laurie's like, I'm so sorry. But it's like, if anything, Laurie should be, like, rubbing it in Karen's face. That, like, because Karen was such a bitch throughout the movie, it feels like now Laurie should be rubbing it in her face. But it's like, you could say Laurie's being the bigger person and not worrying about that right now. But it's like, the whole thing just comes off as fake because of that. Oh my god, it's raining. That's funny. Oh, please don't make this review unwatchable because it's raining. But, you know. So, Ray sees the dead sandwich cops, and Myers actually made one of them into jack-o'-lanterns, which was really cool. Not really sure how he did that or had the time to do it, but it was a cool visual, so whatever. So, Myers kills Ray in the same way he kills the cop in the Halloween 209. And then Laurie then calls out, and then Myers turns, and then Laurie sees him staring at the door through the keyhole. And at this point, this is, again, you're not supposed to be thinking about any of this stuff. Like, the viewer at this point is supposed to be thinking, oh shit, oh my god, Myers is coming to the house. And again, that's probably what you're thinking on your first viewing. But at this fucking point, when you're thinking about the sketchy character work in this, when you're watching this for the third or fourth time, it's like, my question, I now have many questions about the character work here. Because my question is, at this point, is what the fuck is the fallout of this movie? And I know we never really get it, because Kills continues the story on the same night, which I honestly now think was a mistake. Because Ends doesn't take place on the same... If the whole trilogy was going to take place in one night, that's one thing. But it's very odd for two movies to take place on the same night, and then the third one just doesn't. But one advantage of that is now we don't have to answer some kind of questions here about the fallout. Because... I don't understand, especially since Laurie and Karen are, like, saying, I love you and stuff again, they're being nice. I don't understand how this is supposed to heal their relationship. Laurie had this desire to get Myers in the house, right? The whole plan is to trap Myers in the basement and then set the house ablaze and kill him, right? That's the whole plan. So the whole plan is that Laurie brings her family, because at this point, Laurie thinks that Myers is out to get her, right? So her plan is to lure Myers in via the use of her entire family, herself, Karen, Ray, and Allison, right? Because they want all of them at the house. Which, again, it is fair that the house is like an anti-Myers house, which is cool. I like that idea. We'll talk more about it in a second. But at the same time, even though it's an anti-Myers house, any house that Myers is not in is also safer. So if Laurie's thought is, oh my god, like, wouldn't she rather say, hey, here's what's going to happen. I want you to take Ray, Karen, Allison, I want you to get the hell out of Haddonfield right now. Wouldn't that be a lot smarter? Instead of bringing them to the house where Myers is, Laurie's idea to lure Myers in with a bag of treats ended up costing Ray his life. She got Karen's husband killed via her nice idea to lure Myers in with bait. At what point does Karen realize that? That's my question, especially since it's already acknowledged that the whole plan is to get Myers there to begin with. Why doesn't Laurie, at what point do you realize that you were used as bait? Because at this point, Laurie thinks Myers is coming to get her. So she's using her family as bait to lure him in to spring this trap. And that ended up getting Ray killed. If you're Karen, you have every justifiable reason to be mad at Laurie. And if you're Allison, you have every justifiable reason to be mad at Laurie. And we know that Allison and Laurie lived together in Ends, and that Allison wasn't there for this revelation. So does Laurie ever tell Allison, oh, by the way, my entire plan was to set him on fire? But it's like Karen kind of does, where she's like, it's not a cage, baby, it's a trap. So, like, But the fallout doesn't really make sense from a character perspective, because if you're if you're Allison and Karen, you have every right to be mad at Laurie right now. So, but like the character work is sketchy at best, but oh well, Myers is here. He's breaking down the door. We don't have time to think about that. We don't have time to think about that. Myers is here now. That's what I mean about like the writing of this movie. They played it very safe, but it's like they made a few more mistakes than you might realize that they did. Oh well, Myers is here. He's breaking the glass, and she picks up Laurie and smashing him against the wall. And then he's such an idiot. He puts his hand over the barrel of the shotgun and fucking, I don't know what the hell, did he think it was a gun? I don't know what the fuck he was doing. But Myers was an idiot and ended up getting his fucking fingers fucking blown off. So, there you go. And then, this is really dumb. Because now Myers is on the porch, right? Laurie is free. She just blew off Myers' fucking fingers. She then runs down to the basement, okay? And fucking flicks on all these high-powered lights. Like she turns on these fucking floodlights that turn the house from a dark place into a super light place. Okay? Hey, genius! Hey, genius! What good are the lights on the outside of the house gonna do now that he's on your fucking front porch? That's my question. What are the lights, what are the fucking floodlights on the outside of your house supposed to do now that he's in the house? Like, you know what I'm saying? That's what I mean. They're getting the, like, how Rob Zombie got all the little stuff right. This movie gets a lot of little stuff wrong. And it gets, you know what I mean? That's like the difference, where it's like, well, Rob Zombie got his movements, and well, I mean, this movie gets all the movements and stuff, right? Where Rob Zombie got a lot of little stuff, right? Just a lot of little stuff in this movie is wrong. And like, when six little things end up being wrong, like some flawed character work, and then this, it's like, like, everyone's starting to act like they're dumb. So, like, so I don't understand what those lights are supposed to do now that Myers is in the house. So now Laurie's in the basement. She's trying to lure Myers down there. And Laurie, again, tells Karen that she was wrong to raise her like she did. But she doesn't really elaborate on why she was wrong to raise Karen like she did. She just kind of says it and moves on. It's like, oh, Laurie just had an arc. There's Laurie's arc, bro. She realized she was wrong to raise Karen like she did, but she doesn't really tell why. I don't know. You can't even really theorize because the movie doesn't... Well, I mean, you could theorize, but the point is, like, all that theorizing doesn't really work or do anything because it's never touched on again. So, doesn't matter. And so basically, Laurie realizes that Myers is kind of too stupid to find the basement, I guess. Or Myers is like, oh, they're not coming out, I'm just going to hide. So, like, if you're going to hide, then I'm going to hide too, right? So, like, Laurie essentially realizes she's got to go and confront Myers. Okay, so basically, like, Laurie kind of reveals she has this anti-Myers house. She's got her big tactical shotgun, and basically when she checks a room, she can seal it off, and I like that idea. It's like an anti-Myers house. It's an interesting setting, as unrealistic as it is. It's an interesting idea to watch Laurie like kind of scan a room, check it, shine a light in on it, and then close it off because he's not there. So she goes from, like, room to room to room, shutting it off and sealing it. So it's like, so that idea is really good. But my question is, why are half the rooms she checks dark? Like, again, this character has a house designed to be an anti-Michael Myers house. There's floodlights outside. She can seal off rooms. So why isn't this character smart enough to fucking know that every room that you check should be fucking as bright as the outside is? I don't, like, it's like the room has to be dark because it's a horror movie. Like, that's what's going on here. The room has to be dark because it's a fucking horror movie, bro. And it makes Laurie look kind of dumb because, oh, like, all the fucking lights are not on in the rooms they need to be in, but the lights are where they are not needed. So, again, little stuff just kind of seems wrong. And then, of course, the idea of having a bunch of white mannequins that kind of resemble Michael Myers now turns around and backfires because she walks inside of a dark room where there's fucking Myers mannequins everywhere. Oh, so now he can just hide and blend in. Good job, Laurie. It's like all this anti-Myers house ends up having more tools for Myers than it really fucking should. However, if you may feel like with all this bitching that I don't like a lot of this, but it's like the ideas are good. The anti-Myers house is cool, and I also like the idea of, like, Laurie is now the one chasing him. At this point, Laurie is the predator, and like Myers is slowly becoming prey. Like a big notion of predator and prey between these two is something that's highlighted throughout this movie, where Myers is the predator, and now it's transforming. Now that Myers is in the house, Laurie is now running throughout the house with her double-barreled shotgun hunting him. You're following the perspective of the predator versus the prey, whereas in 78, she's the prey and he's the predator, and this one, she's the predator and he's the prey. Like that aspect of it's actually really good. That's actually really good. So basically, Allison kind of throws off the whole plan. Okay, I skipped a little bit. So basically, Allison kind of like shows up. Okay, well, she's bumping into Laurie's dummies. I forgot about that scene. That's what we're talking about. There's this weird scene where Alice just bumps into Laurie's dummies and then she like screams. Don't really fucking know what's going on. Like, Allison just conveniently showed up to the fucking premises. Like, it's a good thing she just walked in, or it's a bad thing that she walked in. Like, Allison would have been safer being where Myers isn't. So yeah, there you go. Again, we were talking about that before. But, so we talked about, like, all the rooms are dark. And then there's this scene where Myers, like, sticks Ray into the closet. Like, he puts Ray's body in the closet, right? When the fuck do you have time to do that? How do you have time to do that? When did he have time to go outside, get Ray's body, and then dump it in one of the rooms to make Laurie look like a twat when she eventually checked the closet? So I guess Myers does remember her because he's playing with the closet or whatever. But it's like, again, well, don't you have security cameras and floodlights on your house? All over your house? Like, especially since he's on the porch at this point when you turn the lights on. So don't you have cameras and floodlights? Like, shouldn't you have known that where... I feel like Laurie should have fucking known what the fuck was going on. Like, they should have been watching him the entire time and knew exactly what he was doing. But, whatever. Whatever. It's like a lot of little details just aren't very good here. But, we talked about the inversion being good, and then Myers gets off, and then, so they finally have a small scuffle, and then Myers ends up pushing her off the balcony. And this is when Allison fully shows up to the house, okay? You see Laurie on the ground. Allison shows up. Myers turns his head to see her, and then he turns back, and Laurie's gone. This is the callback to the original that actually worked. Because the notion that Laurie's predator and he's the prey, that's finally, that's what's being communicated to the shot. Whereas the first shot wasn't really communicating anything to you. This one is. This is communicating the fact that he is the predator. He's the prey now. Like, he's in this house with her, and they have a plan to get his ass. But, so like, that shot when she falls off the house and they do the inverted 78 ending, that's really good. So Allison manages to get in the basement, but like, this cues Michael on where the entrance is. So like, Karen, and so like, when Karen gets her in the basement, this is another small detail. This is the best aspect. This is Karen's best moment in the movie. When Allison gets in that basement, Karen acts like Laurie. Like, Karen acts like a daughter around Laurie and a mother around Allison. And I really liked that. I really liked that small detail. It's definitely Karen's moment of the movie where she's able to, like, be the Laurie. She gets that Laurie side that she needs to be. And at this point, you get all three. Like, Myers is now, you can now see that he's the generational trauma that's kind of plaguing this family. Because now all three of them have to do their part to, like, get him. Right? So Karen has her best scene where she baits Myers in by acting scared. Something that I would have liked to see, like, Laurie teach her in training. Like, that would be really cool in, like, a flashback or something. So she, like, tricks him and she says, "Gotcha." And then she shoots him. And then it bounces back to Laurie, who's in the closet. And it's like, this part's kind of cheesy. Like, Laurie's in the closet, and like, you see her, you saw Myers' face in the closet in the first one, and she goes, "Happy Halloween, Michael." And then she just, like, that's a bit goofy. But they end up knocking Myers into the basement, and then Allison and Karen both end up helping and trapping him, where Allison stabs him, Karen kicks him in the face. Laurie, so, like, the whole family now was involved in this. And then Laurie turns on the fucking flammable gas, and I like this. Myers is just standing there and watching them as the house goes up in fucking flames. The fire around Michael, as we know in Kills, is reflective of his shift in personality. This whole thing just fucking irritated him. And he's standing there watching them as the fire goes up. And he's kind of like, I'd say downloading them to his personal hate box, which I thought was really cool. His mood is changing right now. That's what's going on. He's downloading these Strode women, and you've personally pissed me off now. So they wave down a truck, and now the Strode women now have the same trauma, and they're holding their bloody hands. Allison's holding the knife and kind of shaking, and then that's it. That's the movie. So there you go. One final complaint I have with the ending is like when you were watching this in 2018, nobody fucking believed it was over. Not one fucking person. Everybody knew Myers was alive. Because the death was so inconclusive, you never saw it. There was also breathing in the end credits. Like Myers was breathing in the end credits, but I didn't even see that, and I knew he was alive. It's just like it was an ending that you just knew. Oh, we're getting the sequel, aren't we? However, they really shouldn't have, because this is by far the best one. Now the character stuff is flawed and not that great. They have lots of missed opportunities for better pacing with the rest of the trilogy, but and the Dr. Sartain thing is really bad. But in terms of this movie has problems. Overall, though, this is by far the best one in the trilogy, and I wish they just stopped here. I really do. They never came close. They never topped it. Kills closer to topping this than Ends, but this was by far the best one. You can't really fault the main trilogy structural issues, because this movie did a good job at introducing some of the characters, and most of the stuff is okay. And like there's a few things that I think they got wrong. Karen, they got wrong. But overall, this is by far the best one of the trilogy. This is by far the best one. And so this movie does have its problems and it does have its flaws, but overall, Myers has done extremely well. James Jude Courtney is probably the best Myers ever. Don't even at me. Don't at me. I know Nick Castle set the groundwork, but James Jude Courtney just had such a mastery of this character. The way he moves, turns his head and stuff. Tyler Mane had a mastery of the character too, but he was playing it. He had a mastery of something else. Whereas when James Jude Courtney mastered Myers, he mastered the shape. And so, every time, whenever Myers is on screen, the movie's great. Same thing, but we'll talk about, that's good. That's a similar thing with Kills. But, even though the character stuff definitely isn't the best in this movie, Myers has done significantly well, and, it's overlookable. This is still a good movie, also. It's not bad. There's flaws and stuff, but, what movie doesn't have flaws? And then the final act is worse than I really remember it being. There's a lot of little stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. But when the Laurie Michael fights, they're good, they're entertaining, they're what you're looking for in your Halloween movie. Just the framework here, definitely not as good as you remember it being. As good as this movie is, I feel like it's definitely worse than you remember it being. If that makes sense. I feel like I'm giving this a positive and negative review at the same time, and I kind of am, but it's still really good. It's still good. This is still a good movie. So, I think that's about all I gotta say, lads. We talked about some of the bigger things throughout the video. I don't really feel like I gotta summarize it here. This took a lot out of me. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how long this is. I had to make several, cuts. I filmed this over the course of 2 days. My first thing, I actually got, I got anxiety. I had, an anxiety attack during the video, so I had to pause it and turn it off. And then... So this one took a lot out of me. So I hope it was worth it. I'm sorry the wait was a little long, but yeah, that's what I got to say about this. I'll put up another poll for our next movie, and Kills will be on it because we just talked about this one. So there we go, lads. I'm getting the hell out of here. Good stuff. GG's.